Gold and white writing on a purple and gold background reading. Afternoon with Keah Brown, presented by the Paul K. Longmore Institute on Disability, the Disability Programs and Resources, and the Black Unity Center and Dream at SFSU.
So I'll go ahead and start our moderated questions with Keah before handling it over to my fellow panelists, and then we'll use the Q&A for our feature. For audience questions, feel free to post those there at any time, your comments, your questions. I also just want to set a reminder that we'll be giving out copies of Keah's debut book and essay collection, The Pretty One, to 5 lucky participants tonight. We will do that at the end of the event today and announce your names. And then we'll also be sending out a brief survey and would appreciate your feedback. That'll happen after the event this afternoon. Before we move on, I do just want to take a moment to acknowledge the recent and ongoing acts of violence against marginalized groups of Black and Asian American and Pacific Islanders. We stand in solidarity and support. All are welcome in this space, and it's important more than ever to elevate the voices of those communities. And I want to thank you all for spending your afternoon with us. And so without further ado, I'd like to introduce Keah Brown. So Keah is an actress, journalist, author, and screenwriter. She's the creator of the viral social media hashtag Disabled and Cute. Her work has appeared in Teen Vogue, Elle, Harper's Bazaar, Marie Claire UK, and the New York Times, among other publications. She's interviewed Judy Heumann about crib camps. Her social media posts have been picked up by celebrities like Brie Larson. She's written about Lizzo. Her work has been praised for giving a relatable voice to the disabled and exploring intersections of identity. She's called out ableism in the fashion industry, movie and TV industry, the workplace. She's talked about self-love and body positivity. I'm just going to tell you right now, there's not enough time.
Hi, Nicole, for the interpretation, could you please slow down? Thanks so much.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for that. So I'm just going to tell you right now, there's not enough time today to cover all of the amazing things that Keah has written about. So please do follow her on social media, follow her on Instagram, follow her on Twitter. Keah, you're one of my favorite Instagram accounts at the moment. You educate me, you make me laugh, you make me think, you make me question things, and I'm so excited to have you here. Keah is releasing a picture book, Sam's Super Seats, in 2022. And I also just learned that she's going to be featured in an upcoming anthology from Tarana Burke and Brene Brown entitled You Are Your Best Thing, Vulnerability, Shame, Resilience, and the Black Experience, which will be available on April 27th. So Keah joins us from the East Coast this evening. And so Keah, welcome. And first of all, I'd just like to get us started with a simple question. How are you doing this evening?
Hi, first of all, thank you for that intro. It was wonderful. I really appreciate it. I'm doing good. I'm good. I think that it's really weird to say that sometimes, but I'm doing good right now. I can't complain. I'm happy to be here.
Great. Well, we're so happy to have you here. And so why don't you start off by telling us about yourself? Tell us about your journey to becoming where you are and what led you to be interested in the different aspects of your career.
Yeah, so I am, like you said, a journalist, author, screenwriter, and actress. And the thing that led me to this career was the fact that I'm nosy. I'm a naturally nosy person. I like to figure out what makes people who they are and why. And through that work, I have figured out who I am and why, and I continue to learn every day. And so the work that I do is often focused on identity and the importance of being able to show up in all that you are, wherever you are, and the fact that we live in a world that doesn't necessarily care or build with disabled people in mind in particular, and the importance of intersectionality. I know it's become a buzzword of sorts, but I find that within the work that I do, I try my best to remind people that I am all things at once and that I will not let one thing go above another or, turn one thing off to appease another group. And I find that in my work, whether I'm talking about my own lived experiences, interviewing someone, or just doing events like these, I try my best to allow people the room to show up as their full self. and give them the space to tell their stories. Because I think when we tell our stories, we make room for other stories. And so I'd say my biggest hope with my work, writing or otherwise, is that people come to it and they learn something, but they don't feel like it's an after school special. They feel like what they take with them will help them, along their own journey towards self love. Because I didn't always love myself. I wasn't always the confident person you see today. I spent most of my life actually really uncomfortable with myself and uncomfortable with my body. And I think once I learned to love myself in 2016 and I celebrated that with the hashtag disabled and cute, I began a journey of just accepting myself for who I was and being excited about who I'd become and who I will be. And I really encourage everybody else to find ways at least to greet each day like they belong in every room that they enter, because that's the journey that I'm on right now, is reminding myself that I belong in every room that I enter.
So I want to ask you about one of the an article that you wrote about, I think it was in early 2020. So in one of your writings, you said that you've never seen yourself as a Black, queer, disabled woman in movie or TV. Why do you think that is, and what do you think the solution is? I know that the Oscars and the movie industry on the whole have been criticized for lack of representation of people of color and also lack of representation of disabled people. And when disabled people are portrayed, it's usually a non-disabled person playing disabled. So I'm curious to hear what your thoughts are on this and what some suggestions you have for how the industry and the ones giving out awards can do to change that narrative.
I mean, when I first thought about it, I was like, oh, it's just because they don't want to. But I think what it really is that people are scared. When you don't understand something, you're less likely to, well, most people, I'm not, but you're less likely to want to figure out how to change that. And when you're comfortable, often you find that you go with what you know. And I think a lot of times with the film industry and with TV, people, execs, the people in power who have the chance to change things don't, because they're like, what's wrong with it? If it's not broken, don't fix it. But the thing is that it's broken. But I think enough people don't realize that it's broken. They think that, some people are upset, but not enough for us to care. Because I think when I look at films like Hulu's Run, where we finally saw a disabled person who was actually disabled in a lead role, and to me it was so obvious that you can see the difference between someone putting on disability and someone actually being disabled and the importance of that. But I find that with regard to disability, it's one of the most underlooked communities in terms of representation in film and TV, and also within most communities. I think that the problem that we have is that film and TV doesn't know what to do with disability, because we live in a culture that tells us it's a monolith that tells us we can only be certain ways to be disabled, like wheelchair users, or we can only use canes, or if we don't have either of those things, we're not disabled. And I think the best way to do that is to listen to people within the community, give us the opportunity to tell our own stories and to champion our own selves, and not necessarily speak for us anymore, but to actually listen. Because I grow tired of seeing stories of someone who knows someone who knows someone who has a disability. It's always like a game of telephone where you know someone who knows someone, and the story gets twisted because it's not being told from that authentic community. And I think a lot of times with disability, it's really just like everybody hates themselves. We would rather die than be like this. There's no happy ending. We don't make it to the end. And I think for film and TV to change that, they'd actually have to listen to us and give us opportunities. It's not just about like hiring one person that's disabled every 4 years. It's making it an actual practice so that we're not just like tokens in a room.
All right, I'm going to turn it over to our next panelist, Bucket Manyweather, and it looks like we're going to do an interpreter switch as well.
All right, thank you. Keah, thank you so much for joining us today. I have a couple of questions, if you'd like to indulge us.
Yes, please.
Awesome. So the first one is, in your TEDx talk, you talk about pop culture not loving you back. And I really love the way you phrased that. But can you speak to this concept and also your engagement with pop culture?
Yeah, of course. So I love pop culture. If there is one thing to know about me, it's that I'm going to have a pop culture reference ready to go at all times, no matter the situation. I find film and TV to be one of the most magical things we have in the world. Like, I kid you not, I am the person who needs to go see previews. Like, I need to be at the movie theater ready with a preview, popcorn, a drink. I love it so much because I think it's both an escape and it helps you see the real world in a different way. You get access to people that you wouldn't know otherwise. And my love for it is so deep, and I criticize it because I know it can be better. I know that it should be better. And so my love for it really stems from just this idea of wanting to create and wanting to live in worlds a little longer that I grew up in or that I found later in life, and to give people that feeling of belonging and that feeling of excitement that pop culture has always given me. But I found that by the time I got to the point in my life where we stopped seeing, things like Brandy Cinderella, and we hit the early aughts and we saw less Black people in general, it was even harder to see myself because we were being inundated with just white characters I had to find pieces of myself in. And even though we are finally getting to a point where people of color are seen much more now than we were, I'd say 5 or 10 years ago, it's still hard because I would love to see every piece of me in some way in the thing that I love so much. Like, people tend to look down on pop culture and they tend to treat it like it's this nonsensical thing, like entertainment is just entertainment. It's not that deep. But for so many of us, me included, it matters because it makes us feel like there's possibility, like there's hope.
Thank you. In your TED Talk, you describe being a dreamer growing up. In what ways do you continue to be a dreamer into adulthood?
Ooh, I love that question. I fully believe that dreams can change your life. And so when I was a kid, a lot of my dreams were nonsensical. They were, to be much taller and to travel to worlds that didn't exist. And then when I got into adulthood, they became creating those places for other people. When I was a child, I was huge on dreaming. I thought that dreams were the best possible thing, and the bigger and grander that they were, the better. And when I became an adult, I lost it for a little bit. The way you do, just trying to find my way. But for me, dreaming is so important because dreaming is the step to hard work. For me, you have to name it and claim it. You have to dream it first in order for it to be put out into the universe, in order for it to be heard and understood, and then you work for it. But you can't work for something if you don't yet know what it is you're working for, and you can't achieve something that you didn't first dream of. And so for me, even as an adult, dreams are an important step, not only in my professional career, but in my personal life. Like, I want to live in a house with a clawfoot tub. That's a dream, you know? I want to live in a house with a library and a office and a reading nook. I want all those things. And I think if I wasn't able to dream what those things might be like, I would just settle for whatever came for me, both personally and professionally. And I don't want to live that life. So dreaming to me is the important step along the way to actually achieving the things I want to in life.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I'm going to turn it over to members of our student org, Dream, and I'm going to start with Andrea.
Hi, Andrea.
Hi, Keah. Thank you so much for being with us again. This is a little bit of a lengthy question. What books, novels, stories were your favorite growing up and why? And what are your favorites now? Who are your favorite Black, queer, disabled, popular figures for us to watch on social media or otherwise?
Yes, lengthy indeed, but great question. So growing up, the book that I loved the most was Dear Mr. Henshaw by Beverly Cleary. May she rest in peace. It made me want to be a writer. It made me excited about telling stories and wanting to impact someone the way that that book impacted me. And, you know, just reading Dr. Maya Angelou and Toni Morrison. And even though a lot of the times I didn't understand what was happening because I was too young, I enjoyed the idea of getting lost in someone else's world and getting lost in these people and figuring out what happened and trying to correlate that to my real life in some way, even when it didn't make any sense. And I think the good thing about now is that we have so many people that we can look to for, for inspiration and for guidance. Like, I will always say this, but Roxane Gay is one of my favorite people on the earth. She is brilliant, she is funny, she is smart, and she is just constantly telling stories in a way that I get excited about. Ashley C. Ford is wonderful. Brandon Taylor is just immaculate. His work is otherworldly. There are a lot of people doing really cool stuff in TV too that I think is really exciting. And of course, I never remember last names, but there are a lot of Black queer people in TV right now writing and directing and being complete and total badasses. So I'll tweet out some later when I have the ads in front of me. But there are a lot of people doing really cool work. And in terms of books that I'm excited about, aside from my own, I'm excited about Ashley C. Ford's Someone's Daughter. I'm excited about Brandon's Filthy Animals. I mean, there are so many good books that we're going to be able to read in the next year and a half. And I'm pumped. Thank you.
Me too. I'm going to keep an eye on your social media for recommendations.
Please do.
All right, and it looks like we have Shira next from Dream.
I think the president previously today. My question is, what advice would you give to college age now?
Advice to who?
Did
It cut off.
you understand me?
I heard advice, but I didn't hear the end of it. What advice would I give to who?
Can you college age the college age now?
Okay, advice to college age students.
For yourself. yourself.
Oh, myself. For me, oh, okay, thank you. So the advice I would give to my college age self is to relax because I was a very high strung college student and I was very nervous constantly about what, my life was going to be like or what I was going to be like and whether or not I was going to be successful. I believed when I was in college that I was going to walk across my graduation stage and have a job that I loved by the time the weekend was over. I didn't yet realize that we live in a world where things don't always work out like that. Like I had friends who got jobs before graduation, and I was like, okay, since I'm not getting one, I'll just get it right after graduation. It'll be easy peasy. But what I would tell my college self is to be more patient because what I didn't know then was every job that I had lost out on or any of the jobs that I couldn't find even the year after college graduation led me to this place because not being able to write in a newsroom or move somewhere to write at a publication led me to writing online, which led me to start a career that I think far surpassed any initial dream that I had for my own life and for my own career. And so I would tell my college age self to be patient, believe in myself a little more, be kinder to myself, and really just relax for sure. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And who do we have next from Dream? It looks like Azalea.
Yes, hi. My name is
Hi.
Azalea. Thank you for being here, Keah. Very excited to be a part of this event. My question is, I think, a fun one. In your intro video for this event, you mentioned cheesecake. Do you have a favorite cheesecake flavor or a favorite place to get cheesecake from?
Well, the Cheesecake Factory is the love of my life. We really care about each other. It's a whole thing. We follow each other on Twitter. I'm super excited about that. I love their caramel. It's like their caramel de leche cheesecake. I love a good turtle cheesecake. I think that Juniors is a really great place if you're in New York City to get cheesecake. I am a person who will try any cheesecake just to see whether or not I like it. I like to be adventurous in my choices with cheesecake so that they don't feel like I'm leaving them out in any way. I want to make sure that I give my taste buds as much cheesecake options as possible. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
And then who do we have next from Dream? Kathleen or Daniel?
I can go.
Kathleen.
Hi,
Hi.
I'm Kathleen. So I wanted to know, or we wanted to know, as an actress, who, if you can work with anyone in your wildest dreams, or if you can create a movie with some co-stars, who would it be and why?
First of all, I almost got emotional because I've been waiting for this question forever. Um, I would work with, and she knows this, I tell her all the time, Mandy Moore, Viola Davis, Meryl Streep, Mae Whitman, Regina King, Regina Hall, Sanaa Lathan, Nia Long, Morris Chestnut, and what's the other person? Retta. I've literally sat and thought about this question long before anybody ever asked me. So I came prepared. I would love to work with them, even if not in the same movie, but at some point in my life. I think that they're all brilliant actors, and I think it would be fun to play. Thank you.
No, thank you.
And then finally, we've got Daniel.
Hello.
Hi.
So the question I wanted to ask was, how can those with disabilities navigate spaces when it feels like it's not built for them, like in schools, working places, or like in organizations? Personally, having been, growing up through the IEP RSP program, there's definitely that kind of stigma against those in the program, that we weren't really necessarily welcome in the classroom and that we were considered like other. And I kind of wanted to know whether in the industry of, entertainment or within what we can do now as students, how are you able to navigate through that?
Well, thank you for that question. It's a wonderful one. I found that in my college career in particular, navigating those systems that sort of people look down upon and there's a stigma to was just me doing my best to speak up for myself, because I realized very early on, once I got out of high school, there was no one to speak up for me. And sometimes it's exhausting to have to be the one to care about your education and the people surrounding you in the schools that you choose to give your money to by attending don't do the same. But I found that being vocal about what I need and using my platforms to say what that is specifically and call out or call in whatever it was that I was seeing that was wrong, helped me a lot. And leaning on other people, being able to lean on other people and say, hey, this thing is happening to me and I don't know what to do. Do you have any advice for me? Being able to look to other people to say, I don't know what to do or how to fix this, but I know it's wrong. Helped. I think, unfortunately, for so many of us, it's a really long battle fighting stigma. But as long as you believe that what you're doing and who you are as a person holds value, and you find within you the chance to tell your story and fight for yourself in rooms where people don't necessarily see you as your full self, you'll be better off. I know that's not the easiest answer, but I find that literally the more you speak up for yourself, the easier it gets.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate that greatly.
You're welcome.
All right. I have another question for you, and then I'm actually going to turn it back over to Dream for some more questions. But I wanted to ask you about an article that you wrote for Fast Company that's related to the question that Daniel just asked you about working remotely. So I know that this is something that impacts not only how people work, but also students, for example, right now, are attending classes. And I also know that you yourself had just talked about on social media how you're able to attend an acting class because it's happening remotely. So how have you benefited from this pandemic related access, and what are your thoughts on ease of access in the virtual realm? And then why do you think it took a pandemic, and how do you envision this for the post-pandemic future?
I mean, I think for me, the biggest thing that I gained from this is the acting classes, and to be able to do it over Zoom and to really feel like I'm still learning and that I'm seen and understood in a way that I never would have had the option to before. It's exciting. I love acting so much, and I would have never realized how much I love it without having this, terrible pandemic to allow me the chance to take these classes. And I've also been doing more events and connecting with readers who would have never been able to make it to a physical event for whatever reason. And I've been able to surprise high school classes and, you know, catch up with my friends and my family that I don't see normally because we're so far apart to begin with. And I think the struggle that I have is, as excited as I am to be able to travel again, come back to LA and see Jones on Third, which has such good sandwiches. I'm also concerned that in losing these things that we have now, whether or not I'm able to take acting classes on Zoom. I mean, it would crush me if I lost that. But also, in the larger scheme of things, disabled people as a whole have so many more opportunities right now than we've ever had. And the sad truth is that the reason we have them is because non-disabled people need them right now too. You know, the sad reality is that we spent all of our lives being told remote work wasn't possible. We spent all our lives being told that no, you can't possibly work from home the majority of the time and come into an office twice a week, or no, you can't possibly do that because we just don't know. There's no room for it, you know. But now writers' rooms have gone remote. You can really see bits and pieces of Hollywood that you would have never had access to. And just for me as a freelancer, I'm talking to people that I never would have been able to if I couldn't fly to see them. I think that the opportunities that are happening for disabled people in multiple um, employed spaces, it's way we have much more option than we used to. And I think my concern is that we'll lose all of it the minute that everything opens back up and people are vaccinated and people will go back to the way it was and pretend like the normal is the best thing. My hope is that there will be a hybrid of some sort where people can do certain things they need to do online and on Zoom or whatever other platform. And then when they want to be in person, they can be. When they need to be in person, they can be. Because there's such a thing as Zoom fatigue, yes, but the opportunity that comes with it, the ability to connect with people you wouldn't otherwise, has far outweighed, you know, any fatigue I might have felt in the last year and a half.
Thank you for your perspective on that. I'm going to turn it back over to Andrea for another round of questions from Dream.
All right, Keah. So we all know you're a fabulous writer, but outside of writing, what do you like to do for fun?
Ooh, there's so much.
Extra points if there's no screen involved.
Well, no extra points for me then. So I love to read outside of writing. I am an avid reader, not just for research, but I actually enjoy it. I spend a lot of time playing this game on my phone called Read Decor, where you just decorate various rooms. I pretend like I'm an interior decorator on the side, like I'm really good at it, but sometimes the voters get it wrong and they put me in the bottom, but what do they know? I like to watch, Netflix and Hulu. And in my free time, sometimes I just like to plug in my AirPods and listen to music. So that's no screen time. I mean, I'm using my phone, but I'm not actually using it. I spend a lot of time um, trying to listen to music and unwind and relax. And my favorite thing to do that's not work related is just text my friends different conspiracy theories about why a restaurant changed their menu or things about like why um, certain actors might have stopped working together. And like I spend too much time watching families on YouTube because I don't want children myself, but their little families are adorable, so I watch those.
I totally feel that. Oh, what kind of music do you enjoy?
I love a bit of everything. Everybody knows that I'm a big Paramore fan. I love Demi Lovato. I love Usher still. I love Usher. I think that he's so talented. I like a bit of everything. I like some country. Maddie and Tay, I'm a big fan of them. And Dan and Shay, that rhymes. I didn't intend for it to. So yeah, I like a bit of everything. I try to make sure that like I'm listening to a wide range of things because I find that like it depends on my mood. Sometimes I want to be sad, sometimes I want to be happy and just dance around my room and choose that. But then sometimes I want to be sad, so I'm like, let me find the saddest song possible. I'm often asking for Rex so that I can like add to my sad playlist. It's the best.
Right, I think we're going to turn it over to Zelia.
Yes. So my question, it's potentially a loaded one, but I think you can handle it.
Okay.
In and out of the entertainment industry, what is your take on quote unquote inspiration porn?
Oof, do we have the time? It's exhausting to me. I find that like the one thing that I'm most frustrated about with regard to the representation we get in and out of film and TV, even on social media, nothing burns my nerves more than seeing a video scroll across my timeline and they're like, little Susie Jane who has CP walks up the stairs for the first time, and there's like the big music score where it swells and like everybody's like, wow, this is so beautiful. And I'm so, this made me think about how my life is and what I shouldn't take for granted. Like I had a bad my earring just fell. I had a bad day and it made my day better. And it's like, if Susie is proud of herself, fantastic, right? But the way that these are framed is that the only thing that matters is the reaction of the non-disabled person to whatever is happening. Like, it's not revolutionary that we exist in the world. The revolution is that we adapt to it, and that inspiration porn often takes away our autonomy. And so I find it exhausting when people have like millions of followers and they're famous in some way because they spend their days reposting inspiration porn or making memes of people who don't have legs or arms, and they say, look at them, they're still out there living. So what do you have to say for yourself? Or they're still pushing themselves. And it's like, they are, but they don't want to be a part of your, weird fetishization of the idea that like anybody who looks remotely different from the Eurocentric, able-bodied narrative or whatever has to be in the want of their approval. So I find that for me, inspiration porn is annoying, it's exhausting, and I wish that people would really think about what they're doing before they share it, not only with me and just in other disabled people, but with like I wish people would think about what they were doing when they shared it in general, because it's harmful and it seems like something that's like no big deal, but I find that these things actually shape the way that the world at large sees us. And so because they're seeing us through these lens of inspiration porn, that's all they're thinking that we are, something to be pitied or like congratulated, but in an infantilizing way. Like don't congratulate me because I got out of bed in the morning. You can congratulate me for the work that I've done or my love for cheesecake and pizza or something like that, but don't just inherently think that I need your weird, like, infantilizing pats on the back because you found me inspiring because I decided that I wanted to live a life that made me happy and didn't wither away under the assumption that I'm not worthy because I'm not like you.
That is an amazing answer, possibly the best response I've ever heard to that question. Thank you for that.
I think we've got another question from Kat from Dream.
So I read your Grey's Anatomy article, loved it. This may be a spoiler for those who haven't seen Grey's Anatomy or is now watching it. I was devastated when Christina left.
Same.
And when Meredith had to find, quote unquote, her new person. Prior to Alex leaving the show, how did you feel of Alex becoming Meredith's new person?
I mean, I saw what they were trying to do, but for me, it never really clicked in the same way. Like, I loved Alex, well, before they did what they did, but I loved Alex on his own. I didn't think that they needed to make him her new person. I think that they just needed to let it be what it was. And I said in the article, like, the true love story of that show was Meredith and Christina. And for me, it will always be Meredith and Christina, even though she's gone from the show. It doesn't matter to me. Those seasons, I think it was like what 10 she was on. She left after 10, I think. That's the love story, and there was no replacing her. And I think that what Sandra Oh brought to Christina really changed the game. She's one of the most powerful and messy and exciting characters we ever had on TV. And I think that like their dynamic together has not been matched at any point since she left, and it won't be. I think that the show will end whenever it ends, and I will still be like Christina and Meredith forever and ever and ever. And that'll be that.
All right, we've got several questions in the Q&A, and so I think now is a good time to transition to our audience questions, if that sounds good to you, Keah.
Sounds great.
All right, so we have from an anonymous attendee, can you tell me about what you'd like to see in representation of disabled children in film and pop culture, especially persons of color that also share that identity?
Children? Okay. I would like to see stories where children in particular are given a chance to speak for themselves. Often I find that when you see narratives in particular with children, it's always the parent speaking or the caretaker speaking or someone saying, I know this is how they feel. Or, you're always seeing with kids in films and TV. I just saw a trailer for one of those, it's like a faith-based film. I forget the name of it, but the first thing that I saw in the trailer was this girl praying over her friend who was a wheelchair user because he wanted her to pray for him to walk again. And then he, in the next scene, was walking again. And I hope that when we change the narrative of disability, we change those cure narratives, these ideas for children in particular, that all they could want is to walk again and all they could want is to be free of their wheelchair. I think that those really cause harm, especially when you're a child. I grew up seeing myself only in those exploitive like telethons, and that was the only representation that I saw. And so I really internalized that for the majority of my life. Like, these things matter. And so when you're a little kid at home watching whatever movie that was, and you see this kid being like, I want to pray, please pray over me to walk again, and then they do, but you can't and you don't, you internalize that to be that that's what you should want. So my hope, particularly for kids in film and TV in the future, is for them to have autonomy, but also to be allowed to just be a kid, and not have their entire being just about their disability. Like, I think a good show that does that for kids right now is Raising Dion on Netflix. If you're looking for Rex, watch Raising Dion on Netflix. They do a fantastic job with a character there who was the best friend of Dion, and they don't make it like she's a sob story or like all she is her wheelchair, without talking about, yes, her disability is a part of her, but that's not the only thing that's interesting about her. I want to see more of that in the future.
I'm gonna need to get a full list of your recommendations when we're done here.
Yeah.
There are not a lot of names and titles. So our next question comes from one of my team, Antonia, who's a disability specialist for the Disability Programs and Resource Center. And her question is, as a disability specialist at DPRC, I often hear sentiments from students like, I can only be queer, I can only be Black, I can only be disabled. Can you speak to how all of us can more fully embrace our intersectional identities instead of feeling like we can only identify with a singular identity group?
I think part of that is because we live in a world where within these groups, we're often asked to put the other pieces of us away. So if you're Black, it's like put everything else away, or if you're queer, put everything else away, or if you're disabled, nothing else matters, right? And I think the best way for us to be able to give people the room to bring themselves fully to the table is for these communities to let us also do that work, to let us also be, you know, disabled and Black, disabled and a Black woman. You know, I think a lot of that feeling of having to choose is because even though our communities might mean well as marginalized communities, what happens is we talk so much about the bigger picture. And so I think the best way to give people the feeling of comfort to be their full selves is to you, the individual person, say, you are everything all at once, and that's okay with me. Because sometimes we just need permission to be ourselves. We need to feel safe enough to do it. And if it's not happening within our individual communities, we have to go person to person and say, hey, listen, you are all of those things to me. I will never invalidate one identity for you to have the other.
Thank you. And our next question comes from Katie. It seems like there's a new streaming platform every month. How has the rise of streaming changed, for better or for worse, the landscape for representation?
I think that there should be more options for us now, like more chances for us to get our stories out there. That's not always how it goes, even with the amount of streamers that we have right now. But I think the smart thing about streamers is that it does give us a chance to say, if this one streamer doesn't like this thing, maybe the other 32 will, you know, maybe someone in that batch will understand what I'm trying to say and how I'm trying to say it. So even though sometimes it feels like there's just too much to watch and all your options are like oversaturated because there's 1 billion streamers, the good thing is that just means more chances. That just means more opportunity to get that thing that you never thought possible on, you know, cable out there. You know, streamers, for better or worse, are a gateway into telling stories that we've never had before. And the more it grows, the more opportunities there should be. So fingers crossed that there actually are.
Okay. Hi, Keah. What advice would you give a college student, a sophomore, who's interested in being a writer or author?
Ooh, okay. I would say start now. Maybe try writing your local paper, whether you want to be a journalist in particular or not. I think the schedule of a college newspaper is unmatched. I joined mine my sophomore year and it was the best thing that I ever did. Having like learning about deadlines and having a set schedule and learning how to interview people and feel comfortable with the sound of my voice changed the game so that even when I'm doing interviews now, I don't second guess hearing myself back. It really taught me the importance of just showing up for other people and being able to be edited, because if you want to be a writer and you want to be an author, you have to be edited. There is not a writer that I know who is not edited. Books are edited, and it's not a personal attack when they edit. What you want is editors who want to make the thing that you're creating the best thing possible. And so for me, starting at the school newspaper really helped me learn to be edited and then be okay with being edited. And it really transferred to my adult life and my ability to actually create things within a deadline and not feel like it was merely impossible. You know, it helps a lot too with imposter syndrome because you forget that, you know, you're writing this thing because you're writing this thing to create one larger thing, and that also helps. So I would say my advice to you is to maybe join your school paper if you have one. If you don't, start writing now. Don't wait until after college. If you can afford to, start writing now. Write a blog, you know, make sure that your presence on social media is there because that also helped me get writing gigs, just being myself and talking about the things that I wanted to talk about. And then somebody was like, hey, do you want to write about that maybe? Have you ever done that before? And I'm like, yeah, totally. And I didn't, but I learned on the fly. So I'd say make sure that you have a steady social media presence. Try joining your school paper. And if you can't write for any publications now as a sophomore, start a blog.
So I think that's a great lead into this next question about how you got started writing your book, and then specifically also with publishing it. How did you
Okay.
get to that phase?
Yeah, so I was doing a lot of freelance work well before the book happened. I had been doing, you know, one off articles professionally since 2015. And the book came about because I created hashtag disabled and cute in 2017 and it went viral on social media. And then I had a bunch of literary agents reach out to me to want to work together. And basically, what I did was put them on like a speed dating thing where I set up five to 10 minute phone calls asking them what it was that we would do together and how they saw my future. And then Alex Slater of Trident Media Group was the one that I felt was the best fit for me. And what we did was put together a proposal where I said, hey, I want to write this essay collection, and here are the things that I want to say in it. And here are the things that it could be comparable to. Here's why I'm the one that should be able to write this thing for your publishing house. And then we sent that out to multiple publishing houses. I got a bunch of rejections, and then it sold at auction, which just means that multiple people wanted it, which thank God, that was just a dream come true for me. But yeah, so we put together a proposal, and after looking at the contracts, I decided which publishing house I wanted to work with. And then I began writing the rest of the essay collection because I had 3 to 4 essays, I think, in the sample of the thing that Alex and I created to let people know what the book would be about. But I started writing the rest of it January 1st. So 3 months after it sold, I started writing January 1st, and I was done with the first draft in June because I was so afraid that they were going to take back the offer that I just started writing and didn't stop. But as far as publishing goes, it happened because I had an agent who went hard for me in the paint, really. He went hard for me. We made a proposal together that allowed publishing houses to see what kind of thing I wanted to create it, why it was important, and why there was nothing like it before. And that really helped me get it published. It was just creating that thing and also having a vision for what I wanted it to be.
So our next question, I've noticed a lot of disabled people are now famous TikTokers, which full disclosure, I don't know much about TikTok. Do you think that their ability to use social platforms provides more accurate representation since they're controlling the narrative? Do you think it helps people understand disability more?
I hope so. I really do. I'm on TikTok too, but I don't really know what I'm doing. Like I'm on it, but am I really on it? Who knows? Um, I think that it is because again, they're controlling the narrative. And I think even if people don't get it and they still want to treat it like inspiration porn or whatever, I think the fact that they're controlling their narrative trumps that in any way. Like I think that the fact that they're able to tell stories how they want to tell them, like, more power to you. I am fully rooting for you. I think it's amazing because I think regardless of whether or not people understand what they're doing, they're still out there and they're still, gaining audiences and getting opportunities they wouldn't have had otherwise. And so whether or not people get it, I think it's wonderful.
Okay, just looking through here. This is a good question. What tools or boundaries do you use to manage your multiple projects and stay motivated despite the barriers, emotional labor, and hurt we may face with navigating inaccessibility, witnessing scary and directly hateful things in the world, and or when people don't fully accept all our identities, even when trying to show up for us?
I think for me, as a Virgo, it's a lot of planning and scheduling. If there's one thing to know about me, I love a schedule and I love an itinerary when I travel. So for me, I'm scheduling things down hour by hour. So in the morning, I'll work on a movie that I'm writing. And then after lunch, I'll work on a book. And then after that, I'll work on, a TV show or another book. I try really hard to make sure that like my every hour is scheduled so that I don't get overwhelmed. And I'm not saying like, oh my gosh, but you have to do this and this and this and this. If I mark it down by the hour, it's much easier for me not to feel flustered by the amount of things that I'm doing. And then the good thing is right now my acting classes are on the weekend. So by the time that I get to my acting classes on Sunday, I've gotten through the things that I'm working on, whether that's an anthology, another book, a movie, or, TV, whatever it is, I've gotten through it by the time Sunday comes so I can really give that my full attention. So yeah, really just planning by the hour is how I keep everything in check. And then also, I think what happens for me is when people don't give me, I guess, the space to be all that I am, or they don't show up for me in the way that I want them to, I just remember that I'm showing up for myself. And me showing up for myself in all that I am is the most important thing. I take top priority with regard to me showing up for myself, and I don't give someone else that power to do that for me. As long as I'm showing up for my full self, then that's, the best baseline.
So there's a couple different questions in here about inclusivity of multiple intersectional identities. And I'm gonna try to phrase them into a question for you to cover multiple questions. But how do you, as somebody who has been a presenter in a lot of arenas like this, what do you expect of facilitators to be inclusive of all intersectional identities? What are some things that you ask for? What are some things that we can do as facilitators?
I ask a lot for heads up. I'm not a person who needs to see like questions beforehand or needs to get a lay of the land because I've been doing it for so long. But I am a person who likes to know like where I need to be in terms of time frame. I need specific dates, and like it also helps for budget so I know what to do and how to plan, any talk or conversation. It depends on what I'm doing. If I'm speaking directly to camera like this, but in conversation, it's a touch easier because I can say, okay, well, great. I know that I'm going to be given questions, but if I'm just popping on to a classroom or, popping into something and I'm just talking straight for like 30 minutes, it's a little tougher because there's no break in between. And I think what I've been very lucky with in regard to all my events, including this one, is that people will accommodate my need for, just needing to know specifics. I'm a specific oriented person. Like I need to know exactly what's happening, when it's happening, how long it's going to happen for. And that helps me, one, release any anxiety, and two, really show up the best way that I can. Like the planning for the event here, meticulous. Okay, we had like meetings beforehand, and I felt really comfortable about how, you know, the event was going to go and how the questions were going to look and how you know, the entire thing would be. And because I've done so many of these, you can very much tell the difference between something that was planned with the person in the input and something that wasn't. And I think that it just allows me to be more comfortable and to give my best self to this because, you know, people pay attention. So just really listening is the biggest thing that you can do, that you can show up for. Ask people what it is that they need and be specific, and they'll tell you, and then give them that.
Classic, I'm muted. The need for more diversity and representation in writing and TV is being highlighted more than ever before. But at the same time, it seems when people do try and incorporate characters that are different from their own personal background in some way, there's a chance for people to find it as appropriation or as a form of caricature. What advice would you give to writers who wish to include more representation in their work, but not want to offend anybody or be seen as appropriating a group of people?
I would say hire somebody who lives in that experience. It's not enough for you to do research and say like, oh, I read 16 books about being Asian, or I read 12, you know, articles about being Black or being gay or being whatever. Hire someone who lives in that experience. I think if you're so concerned about appropriating or upsetting people, take the time and pay people money to do that work of helping you avoid that. Because I think that oftentimes people are like, well, what can I read? What can I do? And it's like, for me, or in my opinion, I should say, if you don't have the money to hire somebody who lives in that experience, then don't write that experience. I've had enough of people being like, I want to just pick your brain. Like, don't pick people's brain, pay them. And if you want to create diverse characters, you have to do that research, you know, and a lot of times you have to remember that not everybody is going to be happy with whatever it is that you create. It's just not the way the world works. Not everybody is going to love it and want it to win every award. What you have to do is know that when you're creating a character that doesn't look anything like you or is so far outside your lived experience that you can barely see above the water of it, hire somebody to do that work. Hire somebody to give you their expertise, because otherwise you are going to run into that exact problem of appropriating and of making those communities that already feel small in terms of representation even smaller. You have to do the work and put your money where your mouth is, essentially. And I know that that sounds really harsh, but it's important because asking the question is great, but you have to actually put effort behind it. Like, it's great that you want to write characters that are different from you, but you have to actually put the work in. And it's not just about reading books or reading an article or watching a video of somebody on YouTube. It's about doing real work so that you make characters and a story that doesn't make people feel small. Thank you.
So I've got a question about documentaries like Crip Camp. So the question is, I think about inspiration porn seeping into more rounded narratives presented to the mainstream. For example, the disability rights movement was a big deal, and the doc Crip Camp aims to show us that. But as a disabled woman myself, CP here too, I struggled with Netflix's classification of the film as heartfelt or heart-wrenching, however they described it, and two other adjectives along similar affective lines. What's your take on this? And how do you manage optimism and pessimism about the actual progress our society might be making towards respecting disabled people or people with disabilities?
Yeah, I mean, oh, first off, fantastic question and CP squad. But also, I think as disappointing as it was to see it labeled as such, to me it didn't matter because the film itself did not fall into the same traps that often we see in disability narratives. I think because the film, to me, didn't make it seem like disability was a sob story and something that we should hate. We hate ourselves, and of course we want to die. Like, the film itself, fighting those tropes, meant that even though I thought it was a little messy that Netflix put it under heartwarming, it didn't matter. I didn't care. I was just so excited when I watched it at Net on I watched it at Sundance when it premiered. And I wept when it was over because I was so excited to see myself in a way that was so different from inspiration porn that the classification on Netflix mattered to me not even one iota. I think that it's okay if it mattered to you. I understand why it might have, but to me it meant nothing because I think the film itself was as beautiful and as important as it was. And whether or not Netflix put it in the wrong classification, the fact that it's there and the fact that people are seeing it is more important than what category it's under when you watch it. Thank you for that question.
So a two-parted question. One is, would you describe yourself as more extroverted or introverted or somewhere in the middle? And then the second part of that question is, has that changed much since shelter in place?
I mean, beforehand, I thought I was somewhere in the middle, closer to extrovert than introvert. And I would say now I'm definitely still more extroverted than introverted. I love talking to people. Again, I'm naturally nosy and I miss people. I miss them so much. I miss my friends. I'm a hugger, so I miss hugs. And I think that if anything that this lockdown has taught me, it's that I'm a person who needs people. People can be exhausting, and you still need breaks from people sometimes. But for me, I realized that I am my best self around other people.
Thank you for that. I feel like shelter in place has caused us all to question, where do we fit on this line? So
yeah, for sure.
Okay. So I just want to share a couple comments with you. There's somebody attending from Cal Poly, which is in San Luis Obispo, which is south of us. And they just want to say thank you for this event being on Zoom because they can participate, which, is something that we've talked about. There are a couple of folks just commenting on your honesty and your sharing with us this afternoon. Okay, I've got a good question for you. I'm just gonna ask it.
Okay.
What is your best April Fool's memory? And I know you started off with saying that April Fool's is not your favorite, but do you have a particularly memorable story you'd like to share, maybe of why you don't like April Fool's or?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you so much for your lovely comments. I really, really appreciate it. Sometimes you need that boost, and so I appreciate it. Thank you. I think the reason I hate April Fools is because when I was in middle school, my obsession with Usher was at an all-time high, okay? And my best friend was like, Keah, guess what? I got us front row seats to an Usher concert. And I mean, I was excited. I was like screaming, crying, so pumped. And everything was great. And then, like 20 minutes later, she called me back and she goes, April Fools. And I have been bitter ever since. Because if there's one thing to know about me, I love a concert. Concerts are the thing that I miss the most. The very last concert that I saw before Corona hit was the Jonas Brothers, and it was a fantastic time. Okay, it was bar none like one of the best concerts. We had a blast. And anyway, middle school me was sick to find out that I didn't have front row tickets to this Usher show, and my dream is to have front row seats at a concert. So really it's a mix of blaming my friend from middle school and the fact that April Fool's is rude because ever since I've never been okay about April Fool's. I've hated it ever since because I got my hopes up about a concert that never happened.
I hear that. That's particularly cruel.
Yeah, she was like so excited. She thought it was the funniest thing, and I was like, I'm heartbroken.
So I think we can, I'll ask you just a final kind of pandemic related question. What's one of the things that you're looking most forward to when we do return to some sense of normalcy, keeping in mind that we don't know what normal is going to look like? And, what's one of the things that you're looking forward to most?
I'm going to cheat and give you 3.
Great.
1 is visiting my best friend in Ithaca. 2 is going back to LA. I love LA. Like, that is my dream home for life. I love it so much. And then the 3rd one is just being able to breathe a little easier, once more people are vaccinated, and like, even though we should still be wearing the masks and everything, I find that like the thing that I'm looking forward to that's not just traveling and seeing my friends and hugging them and kissing their cheeks is being able to breathe a little easier, knowing that I'm fully vaccinated and also that other people are, because I think anything that'll help stop the spread. So I'm really looking forward to visiting my friends and like hugging them for 2 hours straight, and then also concerts again. I miss concerts, so I'm looking forward to that at some point too.
Me too, with the concerts, absolutely.
Mhm.
And I do have just a couple more questions for
Okay.
you. And one actually is related to something I saw in one of your Instagram stories today, where you're talking about joy. So what's something that's bringing you joy right now?
Oh, well, something that brought me joy really recently, and also sadness because I'm sad it's over, but the Superstore series finale was funny, and it made me sad because I really, really love that show, and I'm gonna definitely be rewatching it. Another thing that brought me joy, as it often does, is buying things. I'm I'm a big, oh, is that a sad emotion? Let me buy something to make it go away. So buying things brings me joy. Just seeing my friends win brings me joy. Like watching their accomplishments through a pandemic has made me so happy because I'm like, you deserve every good thing. Really good pizza brings me joy as well. Yeah, so all those things like friends, family, music, good food, and like seeing people I care about prosper. And also all the little babies that are in my life, like my friends' kids and my family's kids. Like there was a small window where people were having a bunch of babies like recently, and I just think they're the cutest things. So yeah, all of that is bringing me joy.
So what's something that you would want to talk about if you were in a situation of like an in-group conversation? Like let's say a group where you don't have to start with the basics of Disability 101 and you can really talk about what you want to talk about with a group of people that have that knowledge.
Ooh, I'd love to talk about so many things. Music, I'd love to talk about. If I could talk about anything that wasn't disability related in any way, I would talk about music. I would talk about HGTV. I would talk about Hallmark movies, specifically the ones where the girls date secret princes. Those are my bread and butter. I love those things. When there's a fake prince, or not a fake prince, when there's a secret prince involved, I'm interested. The Christmas movie section on Netflix, I would talk about specifically the ones with Vanessa Hudgens. She's really cornered the market, and I'm proud of her for it. I would talk. I would talk about, it's so funny because I guess I never really think about too much what that would be like because I'm so used to having to do 101 and be like, yes, I'm disabled and there's nothing wrong with it. That like just thinking about my interests outside of disability work, I'm just like, I haven't thought about it in a while, but I would, there's so many things that I would talk about. Oh, my love for the home goods store. And like, I'm at a place in my life where I'm super interested in buying organizational stuff, like the little wicker baskets and like the, you know, like the stuff to decorate a home. I love that. I would just love to be able to, on a base level, have everyone who ever meets me understand that not only me, but all disabled people are people first. And we're not, you know, fodders for anything. That would be a dream. So I wouldn't have to always be like, hey, guess what? We're people too. We're people as well. You know, that would be nice.
I've got a question about disability justice. What's your strategy for pulling people into getting it about disability justice? And I know that I read your conversation that you had with Judy Heumann, which is just so awesome to see you have a chance to interview her. But what are some of your tactics working with people who don't seem to quite get it or aren't quite stuck on the disability or are stuck on the approach to disability rights?
First of all, yeah, Judy's a delight. I adore her. I was talking to her the other day and I'm just like, you're one of the best, I promise you. I think for me, I just try to talk to everyone the same, you know. I try to talk to people about disability and about identity from a place of conversation so that people feel like they can let their guard down and be comfortable. I'm not coming at you as a scholar, which I think that there's nothing wrong with. I just personally, for me, I try to come to people under the assumption that we're just having a normal conversation. I think that for me, it's like you can work hard to help people get it, you know, but at some point, you can only do so much. And so what I try to do is like, I'll give people, I'll say like, you know, because 4 is my favorite number. So I'll say, I'll give you like 4 chances. If you don't get it by the 4th chance of me just being like, hey, guess what? Disabled people are people. Like, here's why. Here's why you shouldn't use this language. Here's why maybe you should rethink doing that and do this instead. If they're not getting it after the 4th time, I move on. I don't stay in that because I think a lot of that comes with frustration that I'm not after. I'm not here to spend my life making sure that people who don't want to see me continue to not see me, but also leave me agitated. You know what I'm saying? Like, I work really hard to protect my peace. As my friend Melissa Thompson says, I work very hard to protect my peace and protect my time. And so if somebody's not getting it about disability, I'll say, here's what I know. Here's my lived reality. Take with it what you will. If you don't get it, that's okay, but I'm going to move on. I don't spend too much time trying to get people who don't get it. Now, what I will say is that when I'm having a conversation with somebody who didn't yet understand what it was that I was talking about or what the reality of disability actually is, by the time we're done talking, just because I try to make sure that somebody understands that I'm talking to them from a kind, you know, place or from through the place of like friendship or even just understanding human to human, then they usually get it in some way or they understand that like in some way they're not seeing us as fully realized people and putting us under the umbrella of like, oh no, that person is it should be pitied or that person has no idea what they want. Like of course we know what we want, you know? So I try to approach it from a conversational standpoint, but if it's not working after the 4th or so time, I move forward.
I'm excited to ask you this question because I just found out that Special is has been renewed for season 2 on Netflix. The question is, assuming you've seen the comedy Special on Netflix, I wonder what your critique is of the show and things that resonated with or annoyed you. What would your dramedy look like? And specifically, how might you create a different show?
Oh, well, I'm not going to answer the last part of that question because, you know, things might be coming. So fingers crossed. But the thing with Special is I love Ryan O'Connell. I've seen the show. I watched it in advance the first season so that I could write about it for Bitch Media. I think that Ryan is a delight. The show itself in the first season was also extremely white. And normally I'd be really critical of that, but the story is based off of Ryan's book, right? And maybe that's just his lived experience, you know? So I can't begrudge a show that is based off of somebody's autobiographical experience. Is that the word? Autobiographical, excuse me, that was gonna bother me. Their autobiographical experience, like it was very white, but maybe his experience was also very white. And I mean, personally, I went through a period in my life where I was like, I never wanted to talk about disability. You know, I never wanted anybody to even mention that I was disabled around me. So there were aspects of it that I understood where it was like, oh, he's also trying to hide his disability from his coworkers and let them think that he got into a car accident because he's not yet comfortable with himself. And so for me, that was the thing that I really related to. I didn't pretend like I got into a car accident, but I understood wanting to hide and tuck that away. I do think, from what I've heard, that the second season does address the lack of color with regard to what happened in the first season of Special. And I think what happened for me was that Special had the same sort of issues that I think Speechless did. You know, Speechless was very white. And I watched the first season, but by the time the show was canceled, I wasn't watching it because I was tired of just seeing one person of color with a speaking role. And so I think for me, whether it's your lived experience or not, television or film is a way to expand that experience and change the things that need to be changed. And I honestly think that, you know, my hope is, because I haven't seen the second season, that, you know, Ryan and team maybe understood that criticism, because I knew it was happening from other people online, you know, that it was very white and, you know, they couldn't necessarily understand, you know, or relate to an all white disability experience. But for me personally, it was just like, I was very happy to see him there. I think he's a delight, and I couldn't really begrudge him for that experience.
So a final question for you before we move on to book giveaway and let our winners know who they are. Without revealing too much, it sounds like there's some secrets that you can't yet reveal, but what is next for you? What can we expect from you over the next month or year or so?
Ooh, I'm working on a lot of things at once. I'm really trying to get into film and TV. That is my big stride push forward. I have the Sam Super Seats out next year. I have the Tarana Burke and Brene Brown You Are Your Best Thing anthology coming out in 2 weeks. Wild. 3, I don't know, math is not my thing. The 27th. So soon. And I also am working on a movie and two movies, a musical. I have some things in the work. I'm trying to do a bit of everything. As far as what I can reveal, right now I'm just taking, you know, acting classes and hoping that I can land some acting roles and really, you know, stretch that muscle. So I'm trying to get as much as possible in every genre that I love and I care about and seeing what sticks. I do think that some exciting things are coming and I can't wait to share them with you, but literally stay in touch on my social media. When I can reveal things, I promise that I will. And I'm really excited for the way life is going right now. I can't complain. I'm really, you know, in my bag, as the kids say, professionally. So we'll see.
Well, I want to thank you so much for spending your, I know it's evening for you, but spending your evening with us. These last 90 minutes have been just so awesome, and it's been so great to work with you. And I know that we'll see more of you. Like I said, you're one of my favorite accounts on social media right now. So, and with that, I will bid everybody good evening, and thank you so much, Keah, again, and look forward to what's next.
Yes, and again, I just saw somebody ask. The name of my book is The Pretty One on Life, Pop Culture, Disability, and Other Reasons to Fall in Love with Me. It's available for purchase right now, and also make sure you go pre-order my, oh no, I think it's just on Goodreads right now, but my book, Sam Supersedes, is on Goodreads. Please go like it. It's a children's book. I'm really excited about it, and that'll be out next year. And also, if you want to pre-order You Are Your Best Thing, I will post the link on social media once I'm out of here. I'm so excited about that as well. There's so much more coming. I promise you, I'm so excited. And again, thank you so much for having me. And really, congratulations again to the winners. I really hope you enjoy the book.
All right. Good night. Bye.
Bye. Bye, everyone. Thank you again.
A purple and gold background with purple and gold writing reading. Thank you for watching. Please follow us on social media at SFSU Disability, at Longmore Inst, and online at longmoreinstitute.sfsu.edu.